For our viewers across Africa and the rest of the world, this is NC Continental Prime. I'm Darshan Usman. Our coverage tonight begins with health matters in the Nigerian capital, Abuja, where President Bola Tinubu has approved the immediate upgrade of 16 health institutions across all 6 geopolitical zones. The president directed that the infrastructure and equipment of the institutions should be immediately upgraded. The institutions include the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Surulere, and the Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital, Zaria. Among them are 6 teaching hospitals marked for the establishment of oncology and nuclear medicine centers per facility, all to be delivered within 12 to 18 months. The 4 other teaching hospitals are the University of Benin Teaching Hospital, Edo State, University of Nigeria Nsukka Teaching Hospital, Enugu State, Federal Teaching Hospital, Katsina, University of Jos Teaching Hospital, Plateau State. We will return to more health stories much later in the course of the bulletin. Now, Nigeria's Labour Congress has declared a 2-day nationwide protest on the 27th and 28th of February. The union, while speaking to newsmen in Abuja, says that government has consistently refused to keep to agreements it made with the union, thus the need to protect Nigerian workers. Marvelous Obomanu has the report.
With Nigeria's inflation rate currently on the rise, many workers say the last few months have been difficult to cope. Nigeria's organized labor in a State of the Nation press conference in Abuja says government has continued to pay lip service to the plight of Nigerian workers.
NEC unanimously noted its deep disappointment and condemned the actions of the federal government in refusing to implement the agreements and reached the following decisions. That it stands on the ratify the 14-day ultimatum issued to the federal government within which to implement the agreement and address the mounting crisis of survival by Nigerians. That the notice expires on the midnight of Thursday, the 22nd day of February 2024. That if on the expiration Congress is not satisfied with government's compliance with the conditions of the notice, Congress will be at liberty to take action that will compel government to implement the agreement.
The union says it has declared a 2-day nationwide protest on the 27th and 28th of February and called on other affiliate union members to join the protest.
NEC in session declares a 2-day national protest on 27th and 28th of February to demonstrate outrage on the mounting hardship and insecurity around the nation. If our demands are not met after the nationwide protest, to issue a 7-day notice that will expire on the 2nd day of March 2024 to the federal government, after which an indefinite nationwide strike will ensure.
When asked about the purported 1 million naira minimum wage, the NLC president said as far as the naira keeps depreciating, even the amount will be insignificant for a Nigerian worker. He says that government should make the review yearly to capture the current realities affecting workers.
If the Nigeria naira continues to depreciate, 1 million naira will be a child's play to the minimum wage. As of today, we are talking of about 1,500, 1,600. So if it continues that way, 1 million naira will be too small for the worker. And the minimum wage, we're going to insist for the review to be annual. Or else if you collect any money and the value of the currency is changing per hour, it will not make any sense and it will be illogical, to return that amount for the next 4 or 5 years.
Many Nigerians will be hoping that the federal government will do all it can to resolve this issue before the ultimatum expires. In Abuja for News Central, Marvelous Obomanu.
Now to discuss this further, we're joined by Nelson Ekujimi a public affairs analyst. Hello, Nelson. Thank you so much for joining me at this time. Nelson, can you hear me? All right, we'll try to reconnect with Nelson in a bit so we can actually have more to discuss on this. Now, moving away from that, the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Workers have threatened to embark on a nationwide strike over what they described as high operational costs engineered by rising inflation rates in the country. NATO, the umbrella body of all commercial transport owners and operators in Nigeria that are engaged in the business of moving goods, passengers, and petroleum products from one place to another throughout the country and in the West African sub-region, the president of the association, Yusuf Othman, said his members could no longer meet up with the delivery of petroleum products as operational costs currently outweighs earnings. Now, he explained that what marketers currently pay NATO members to load and deliver one truck of 40,000 liters of petroleum products is 1,320 naira per trip, while actual expenses sit at 1,285,000 naira per trip. Earlier, Olushola Bello, publisher Business Standards, spoke to us on this development.
Issues that have probably led to that issue, to that incident. First, bad roads. Bad roads across the country is a major contributor, and it slows down the operations of the tanker drivers. Their trucks break down at almost very frequently, and they also require a lot of money to fix those things. Then aside from that, aside from the road incident, the bad roads also, well, the distance in which they cover, is also a contributing factor, because a distance that should have, that should have been covered by within 2 or 3 days, or even 1 day, it ended up being covered with, about 3 days, because of the same factor, bad roads. Now, the government is now, in some cases, look at what they are saying in Lagos State. Lagos State is taking of e-call now. And that e-call, we are made to understand they will have to pay 15,000 for that operation. We don't know whether the 15,000 is going to be yearly payment or it's going to be monthly payment. And having this will also take the cost. It will not only reflect in the cost of the product. Alone. It will also escalate the cost of other goods and services that have been rendered in the country.
We have been able to reconnect with Nelson Ekujimi, a public affairs analyst, to speak to us on the state of the nation and the Nigeria Labour Congress that have declared a 2-day strike. Hello, Nelson. Thank you so much for staying with me.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for having me. Good evening to everyone.
Good evening. All right, so now what specific grievances and hardship prompted the Nigerian Labour Congress to declare a 2-day nationwide protest? And how do you think the deteriorating security situation in the country will factor into the decision?
Well, the Nigerian Labour Congress president has spoken from that press conference, and you can see in terms of the agreement, and one expects that in view of the threats by Labour Congress, that the federal government will do the needful in inviting them for a discussion. Don't forget, when we talk about government is not God. And that position can stand whatever vagaries of life. The government is also, susceptible to the federal government will, call a meeting of the Labour Congress to put them, on notice of what might have impeded the implementation of some of those agreements. rather than, this allowing the labor union to go on the proposed strike. I want to believe strongly that government will do all within its powers, to avert the labor. They still have the windows of almost 2 weeks from now, or a week plus.
All right. Now, Nelson, can you provide insight into the nature of the 14-day ultimatum issued by the NLC to the federal government? What were the demands or expectations outlined in the ultimatum? And how does the
demands
NLC...
is the...
Yeah.
I think part of their, from their last agreement that was reached in 2023, we had the issue of a 35,000 wage award for 6 months. We also had the government rolling out some, palliatives to Nigerians and what have you. So I don't have my finger on those specific issues that have not been implemented now. But as we interrogate the issues, as we watch development unfold, we as citizens of Nigeria will be able to keep tab on where either of the party is not being reasonable, to recognize that, look, these are things that cannot be done in a jiffy. These are things that attempts have been made to, rectify them. But maybe
well, Nelson, talking about keeping tabs, right?
Some other hiccups,
if you can hear me, Nelson.
These issues are still hanging in the balance. But as we know,
Nelson, talking about keeping tabs, right? How does the NLC, plan to address these issues through the upcoming nationwide strike? That's strike or protest, per se, rather, that's meant to start from February 27th and 28th. All right, we seem to have lost Nelson there, but thank you so much, Nelson, for joining me and speaking on this. We appreciate you. All right, so we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue. Thank you for staying with us on NC Continental Prime. We now head to politics, where one of the top aspirants in the upcoming All Progressives Congress governorship primary election in Edo State, Osage Ize Iyamu, has quit the race. Now, in a letter of withdrawal sent on Friday to the national chairman of APC, Abdullahi Ganduje, and copied the acting state chairman of the party, Jarrett Tenebe, to notify the party of his decision, Ize Iyamu said the decision was a painful one. He had been one of the top contenders before he quit the race, to the surprise of many. It would have been his 4th attempt at becoming the governor of the state, having served as secretary to the state's government under Governor Lucky Igbenedion. Still in Edo State, the race for who flies the flag for the various parties in Edo State is heating up, and the All Progressives Congress prepares for their primaries. Now, of the 12 contestants seeking to be the party's preferred choice, about 4 of them are from Edo North. Our correspondent, Bernard Akede, was in Edo North earlier today and spoke to us about the forthcoming primaries. All right, well, to discuss this, we're joined by News Central's correspondent, Bernard Akede. Hello, Bernard. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me back, Dasha.
All right, so Bernard, we're beginning to see some interesting drama just hours before the APC primaries in Edo State. For example, a top candidate has actually pulled out from the race. What's actually happening?
Well, Dashan, I would say I'm not exactly surprised that this information came yesterday when we just arrived in the state. We're getting some, you can call it bear parlor rumors, that some candidates may eventually decide to pull out. So we're just waiting. I guess it was just a matter of time before we began to hear who and who. And I don't know if I should say sadly, he was the first. I'll do that a quick resume of him so we know he's not exactly a greenhorn. Now, apparently, he is a pastor, of course, Osage Ize Iyamu. He served under the Edo State government before as the Secretary of State to the government. He also was a gubernatorial candidate in Edo State for the People's Democratic Party, even though now he was trying to run under the APC, All Progressives Congress. And he's done other things, you know, in and around the state for quite a while. He ran against the current governor presently,
Governor or Baseki. So he's been around the corridors of power for quite a while. But then, like I said earlier, the gist we were hearing yesterday particularly was the fact that the APC may decide to collapse the number of candidates into just a few so that they could have, will I call it, a more focused contest or competition, if you like. Initially, as at yesterday or the day before, there were about 12 people contesting for the primaries, and out of those 12, of course, just one of them will eventually become the party's flag bearer. But if they reduce the number, and I want to believe that this is a political gimmick anyway, if they reduce the number and focus their strength on just a few, there will be more concentration, and then they'll be able to focus more, on the final day. Remember that something like this also happened during the presidential election, where certain contestants under the All Progressives Congress also dropped their contest for who we now have as the president, if you do remember. So it's not a surprise. What I'm expecting to see, I'm not a soothsayer and I'm not a betting man, but if I were, I would put my money on the fact that there may be some others who may also drop out tomorrow. Again, nothing conclusive, but I'll put my money to that if I were a betting man.
All right, Bernard. Now, talking about numbers, you were in Edo North today, and so far we have like 4 contestants from Edo North. What are the people saying about the APC candidates from that part of the state?
Well, the few people I spoke to spoke highly of the candidates there and said, well, that they cannot exactly put their finger to who exactly may be picked or would win this particular primaries. And that's because, as we've seen today, one person has pulled out already. Who's to say that there will not be more drama between the hours of now and tomorrow when the primaries will start? So nobody was willing to stick out their necks. They just said that they do hope that if the APC is strong enough to knock off the PDP come the election itself, that they just want whoever is coming in to look into the plights of the people and continue from where other APC leaders had done. The late particular example of Comrade Adams Oshomole, who was the former governor of the state and who was, who used to be a Labour president or chairman rather, showing some of the things he did. The community we visited is one where he worked on the roads and street lighting, and the people there are hoping that if the new governor comes from that community as well, that he should consolidate on what has been done before. But again, none of them was willing to stick out their neck to say who exactly they feel will turn out tops come tomorrow's primaries.
All right, Bernard, earlier you spoke to one of the indigents and residents that actually said that they need factories. They need the incoming governor to actually set up factories so that they can provide jobs for the teeming youth. Now, what do you think other needs of the people are based on what you have seen and what you've heard?
Yes, the first person we spoke to talked about factories. Also talked about consolidating on what the predecessors had done before and hoping that will continue. They have issues with power, of course. This is a national issue, but they're also hoping that power gets better in the state. Now, we noticed as well as we were living there that it was a challenge getting petrol. And where we did get petrol, it was way more expensive than what we get in Lagos. As a matter of fact, in Lagos, in some places, you can get for 600 naira per litre. There we got for as high as 670 naira per litre, and that's after scrambling a lot. Now, they are saying that whoever comes into power in the state, they're hoping that the person will also find a way to kind of bring down the cost price of certain commodities and see how petrol and other necessities that the people of the state and the region need will be made available and at convenient prices, just as what you see in other parts of the country. It doesn't help that Edo State is towards the south part of the country, one of the places where crude oil is being extracted from, and the people are complaining that why are they getting it at higher prices than other states? So they're looking at job opportunities, factories, availability of products like petrol. They're looking at power supply, looking at roads, particularly. The road leading to the state is in shambles. If we had the chance, we would have done some videos also to share. So basic amenities that other people are asking for, it's seemingly the same thing they're asking for. But they hammered more on job opportunities, particularly factories, for their teeming youthful population.
All right, well, thank you so much, Bernard Akede, for joining me to speak on this. We'll expect more updates from you on this, and do stay safe. All right, away from that, survivors of conflict, victims and de-radicalized women in Edo State, northeast Nigeria, are demanding economic empowerment and an end to discriminatory practices. The peace-building initiative that brought together all the actors and mediators was organized by the Alamein Foundation of Peace and Development in Maiduguri. News Central's Umaru Kirawa completes the report.
Ali Abdu Bolori was once a successful businessman in Maiduguri, the Borno State capital. The 64-year-old lost one of his wives and became crippled at the peak of the insurgency. Ali narrated his ordeal and experiences of starting life afresh.
Ba laifi mun yafe musu, mu da kanmu mun yi ma Ubangiji laifi, in ba a yafiya ba zai yafe muna ba. Ki duk wannan fitintunin samarin nan in suna da aiki ba zai taso ba kwata-kwata. Rashin aikin nan shine masifa.
While many stories of such are left untold, survivors, victims and some de-radicalized women shared their stories, highlighting the challenges they have endured and the need for support to rebuild their lives.
Since 2011, my son was arrested. I want to see my son. We want justice.
They emphasized the importance of inclusive and sustainable economic empowerment programs that provide opportunities for financial independence.
It's a plus to Borno State that there is a documented requirement by these groups of vulnerable women and girls on their specific needs to every stakeholder, so that collectively, what are we doing? We are all doing to complement, trying and then struggling to complement what the government is doing.
Among the demands were requests for skills training, access to microfinance programs, and mentorship initiatives to help them establish their own businesses and secure a better future for themselves and their families.
To ensure that it does not happen again, and there is a critical emphasis to ensure that justice is done to everybody irrespective of differences.
Borno State government revealed that over 6,900 of the de-radicalized insurgents have been successfully reintegrated into the society.
All we need to do is to strengthen the collaboration and be accessible to every organization, so that, as His Excellency has always said, this issue of peace and security is not a one-man or only a government show.
The peace-building journey might be rough and tough, but the collective effort and support is said to spring better and egalitarian society. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Let's head back to health stories, where health stakeholders in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, have tasked citizens to be more vigilant on the health status of their children and ensure the early detection of cases of child cancer. They say this will ensure the quick and compulsory treatment of children diagnosed, which can give them a high chance of survival. Some of them took to the streets of Abuja as part of efforts to mark the World Child Cancer Day and raise awareness on the need for early detection of child cancer in children. Amadin Uyi reports.
Child cancer has become more popular in recent years, with over 400,000 children between the ages of 0 to 19 diagnosed annually. The most common types of child cancers include leukemia, brain cancer, lymphoma, and solid tumors.
Cancer in children is widespread across the nations, across the world, and that is why we have World Cancer Day celebration, because it's a disease that cuts across the globe.
As the world marks the World Child Cancer Day, the Akanimo Cancer Foundation took to the streets of Abuja to raise awareness about child cancer.
Today, we are simply creating awareness about childhood cancer to tell the world that childhood cancer is a thing, it's real. Children can get cancer too.
They also expressed concern about misinformation on child cancer being peddled around.
There's a lot of misinformation about cancer. People think it's village people, it's juju, it's babalawo, it's everything. And it's only when it gets to the terminal stage that they finally pull themselves to the clinic.
We have medical reasons for causes of cancer. Cancer does not have anything to do with witches and witchcrafts. But you know that we believe that every physical thing has a spiritual origin.
For many Nigerians, the idea of a child diagnosed with cancer is unimaginable. This is because in this part of the world, it is usually attributed to superstitious beliefs or the handiwork of witches and wizards. However, available technology now makes detection of cancer in children possible. There are some here who believe that early detection is key because it can save the life of that child that has just recently been diagnosed with cancer.
The very first benefit of early detection is that the cancer can be contained within the organ where it started. So the thing about cancer is this: it starts from one place, and then what kills is that it spreads to other organs, especially vital organs of our body.
They urge parents to be more vigilant over their children so as to ensure that they detect any cases of child cancer.
All you need to do is pay attention, please, to those simple complaints of your children. Do not ignore them.
In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
Thank you for staying with us on NC Continental Prime. Senegal's President Macky Sall says the delayed election to choose his successor will be held as soon as possible. Now, this comes after the top court ruled that his attempt to delay the election was unconstitutional. Sall has served 2 terms in office, and on Thursday, the Constitutional Council annulled the president's decree moving the votes to December. It also voided the contentious bill passed by Parliament, which had backed the president's decree. The move will go some way to restoring Senegal's reputation as a bastion of democracy in West Africa. The original date was 25th of February, so there is not enough time to hold it then. Senegalese authorities have released over 130 opposition and civil society members from prison, and around 90 more are due to be freed. It comes as President Macky Sall seeks to appease the public and end the crisis caused by the delay to this month's presidential poll, a move already overturned by Senegal's Constitutional Council. The Justice Ministry said 134 people were released since Thursday. However, a member of the collective of families of political prisoners, Suleiman Jim, said 156 detainees were released on Thursday, and a total of 500 are due to be released shortly. The country's opposition candidate, Khalifa Sall, welcomes the release of the detainees.
Parce que je fais partie de ceux qui ont dénoncé l'arrestation de ces otages, de ces prisonniers politiques. C'est la première fois que dans ce pays, on se trouve avec presque 1000 détenus politiques. Et ce sont pour des raisons politiques, disons. Pas tous, hein. Pas tous. Parce que ceux qui ont posé des actes criminels, on ne peut pas les défendre. Ceux qui ont fait
We now move to the Rainbow Nation, where authorities say 7,710 people were murdered in South Africa between 1st of October and 31st of December 2023. This represents an increase of 155 murdered people for the same period during the previous year. Police Minister Bheki Cele made this known on Friday when he released the third quarter crime statistics, which covered last year's festive season period. Cele said 4,882 suspects were arrested for murder and attempted murder for the period in review. He commended KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape and Free State provinces for being able to register a reduction in the number of people murdered during this period.
As we unpack the third quarter crime statistics for the past 2 consecutive terms, we had noted a reduction in the number of murders reported. During this period, but a total of 7,000 people were murdered. It is disturbing and concerning that the number of people murdered during this period increased.
South Africa's opposition Democratic Alliance Party candidate John Steenhuisen on Friday made public the DA's plan ahead of the general elections. President Cyril Ramaphosa's historically dominant African National Congress is struggling in the polls, months before what is expected to be the most competitive election in decades.
I believe that after 30 years, we've reached that critical tipping point. And that's why this election is going to be unlike any other in the past 30 years. In every other election, people have just known the ANC was going to win. It was just by how much. This election, all bets are off. And we've seen the polling. The ANC is polling well below 50%. And it gives us an opportunity now to be able to unseat them. And in this election, for the first time in South Africa, there's a united opposition bloc that's working together. By far the largest bloc outside of the ANC. Of course, race is going to play a role in this election, but I think the role that race will play in this election will be far less than it's played in elections in the last 30 years. People in South Africa are desperate. They are struggling under one of the largest cost of living increases in a generation. They're sitting without work. Their children are in school.
And that's all at this.